Hello and welcome to episode 285 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at Dynasty Dad FF. Week 18 is here and over with. That means everyone's fantasy championships have been decided. You know, if you're one of those degenerates that play week 18, I feel sorry for you because you got to figure out what random backup running back is going to win you a title. Speaking of titles, I got mine, baby. You know, this was a unbelievable year for Smash Accept. You and I won a ton of championships, a lot of it based off of what we did at this time of year. We're talking about what are we going to do? Who are we going to draft? And this week, Snoog, it's my favorite week. It is 2025 RB week. We're going to talk about nothing but this running back class, which has me totally excited.
Yeah, I'm still recovering from that Jahmyr Gibbs 46-point performance from last night, 4 touchdowns, best running back under 20 whatever years old, right behind Saquon Barkley. Just had to get that out there, but I'm excited for this. I always say this is the best time of the year, and everybody's like, what? Like football's ending. What do you mean this is the best time of the year? And it's like rookie prospects. There's nothing better than evaluating, testing out your skills, kind of how you see ball, and just comping these guys to some players, just diving into the process. It's fun. Getting to see these prospects kind of go through the combine, then go through the draft, and then go through training camp and OTAs and all that good stuff. So best time of the year starts now. We're going to dive into this potential historic running back class. I know people kind of say that a lot. 2020 was supposed to be like that. 2023 was supposed to be like that. 2023 did give us 3 superstar running backs and a couple of guys that are still like Tank Bigsby, Kendre Miller, Zach Charbonnet, still flashing, Tajay Spears. Guarantee you 1 or 2 of those guys will end up being at least top 15 running backs at some point. But the running back position can be right away, or it could take a little bit, and they could be handcuffs and then be superstars. So a really fun position, my favorite. So I'm excited to dive into this.
Right now, we got Thomas Bout says, good morning, guys. Just a reminder, we are on YouTube. We are on Spotify podcasts, everything, Apple podcasts, everything major. One thing I want to hit on, Snoog, and I'm going to put this up there, is our patreon.com/smashaccept. I keep hearing people in the Dynasty community on Twitter, on YouTube, all over the place saying, man, this class is weak. You need to sell into 26. You need to sell into 27. And this just reminds me, and I keep saying it in the Discord, guys, $5 a month gets all of our rankings. Snoog and I have our top positional rankings. We have our top 24 Superflex rankings for the rookies, as well as all of our equivalents for values when it comes to regular players. But Snoog, the one thing I keep telling everybody is, and I keep saying this, $1 today is worth more than $1 in 2 years. What I can do, and we do this every year because everybody's like, oh, well, the 110's really not worth anything. And then you draft Ladd McConkey, and now he's worth, 2.5 first. And you say, well, I don't really want to be in on this class because I don't believe in it. You need to know how Dynasty works. The cyclical way of Dynasty fantasy football is everybody gets rookie fever. Everybody wants to draft those draft picks. Everybody's going to pay up on draft day. That's why last year I was getting Alvin Kamara in a 25 first for the 110. That's like absolute smash win now. Is like people get that rookie fever. They want to buy in. Yes, I think the 2027 class with Smith is going to be absolute fire. However, we got to look at this class. You got to understand what you have here. And on draft day, you trade that 25 first for a 26 plus first. And then even more savvy, you trade that 25 first plus a 27 first plus. Now all of a sudden you're balling. You got yourself a James Conner and a 27 first for the 110. Now you're ready to go. But this class is loaded when we're talking about running backs. Last year it was the wide receivers, and we got a nice sprinkling in Dynasty of 4 guys in our top 14 are from that class. Now we're going to have a running back class here, Snoog, that I think is just going to shake the entire running back landscape quite a bit. Like this group is going to really get us into position to dominate for the next decade.
Yeah, this is very deep class. There's a lot of guys that we have in that kind of NFL starter / stud prospect kind of tiers that with just day true draft capital and a good landing spot, they could be top 12 to top 15 dynasty running backs. I mean, we saw it with James Cook and Rachaad White, right? Like these are 2 guys that were day 2 prospects, pretty good talents, good receiving backs that got day 2 draft capital and were RB1s for at least a year to 2. Rachaad White kind of got replaced. Still put up like a strong flex RB2 overall season because of the pass catching, but he had like that year last year. James Cook had that year last year and this year. Like you don't have to be the best running back in the world to have a good fantasy football season. You need draft capital. You need a good landing spot. You need some type of receiving upside or some type of touchdown volume role in a good offense. So I'm excited for this class, especially because I think there's like 12 guys that could be a Rachaad White at least. So
yeah. And right now, like today, you and I are starting to fine tune this, and our orders pretty similar. Our tiers not 100%, but right now when we're looking at tiers, and we're going to be doing running back shows all week, so make sure you guys check that out. We're going to do some quick hitters. We're going to do some shorts. We're going to do some top 12s. But right now, I mean, there's the S tier. We're going to call that the smash tier. There's one guy, okay, but that's most years you don't have more than one. 2023 had 2 to 3, and I think in this part of the process it was only 2. It was not 3. So I can see one of these guys in the A tier, the next one, which you and I have labeled top 12 dynasty upside. I think there's 3 to 4 guys in there. And I think one of those guys could literally be in the smash tier if he goes to the right area. I think Kaleb Johnson, when we get to him, really could jump into that smash tier. Then we have the B tier, which is NFL starter talent. That's 4 guys right there. Snoog, that's 9 NFL starters. And then I have 2 more guys in that committee plus, where I think those guys, I mean, legitimately in the right situation could thrive as well. That puts us up to 11. D tier, that's 4 different guys that right now are committee only, but we've seen that. We've seen these committee only guys thrive and win you championships. And then we have 4 more guys who we're considering depth insurance running backs. And we all know that the insurance running backs were running the show, week 17, 18, those are the guys that can win you a championship where you're like, oh man, I really should have added this guy. And, throughout the process, this time last year, that committee plus, that C tier, that would have been Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving now is in that smash tier. You know what I mean? So things can change quite a bit. Things can move up. When you talk about running backs, though, I'm telling you, man, this seems like as close to a hit as you can get. You and I said Bijan and Gibbs were going to be absolute smashes. We felt the same way with Breece Hall when he was coming out. Ashton Jeanty is in that elite category. 30 touchdowns. Heisman runner-up. 2,600 rushing yards. And I put that out there before where, when you look at the rushing yards, he had more yards after contact than the RB2 Omarion Hampton had total yards. That's just how good he is. 500-plus receiving yards, first player to break 150 tackles. And right now, Snoog, people are down a little bit because of the Penn State game. We're talking about a guy that was an absolute workhorse the entire season, someone that, comps out really high. He should be the Superflex 101, no matter what happened in that Penn State game or not. He is going to go to an NFL level system. He goes to the right system with a good offensive line. The sky is the limit for this guy. He's already my dynasty RB3, maybe RB4, at the floor. But Snoog, I mean, we all know about Ashton Jeanty. Tell me a little bit more. I mean, I know you have him comped as someone that people are just going to get, we're going to win some more of these bad boys just with this guy. And who do you have him comped to? And tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, I want to first hit on that he had the highest PFF grade in the PFF era history. Just to talk about kind of how historic his year was this year. You mentioned he broke another record, 150-plus forced missed tackles. He was just less than 20 yards short to break that single season rushing record as well there in the NCAA playoffs. But just talking about, he played Penn State and Oregon, just talking about the competition situation. When he played Penn State, I'm pretty sure he had 80 plus of his rushing yards out of 100 something after contact. He was getting stoned wall all game. Boise could not stand up against that defense up front. That's the best defense in college football. They had no chance. It was Ashton Jeanty's show or nothing, and they had 8 guys. Why do you think Boise State could throw the football a little bit? That's just all you need to know about how Penn State prepared for that, because they stacked the boxes. He absolutely ran all over Oregon, 200-plus yards, 4 touchdowns. He was good against good contact. Talking about his receiving upside, because people don't think he has it, he posted 3.19 yards per route run in his sophomore season, 569 receiving yards and 50-plus receptions. He's damn near an elite receiving back coming out. They just didn't need to use him like that this year. They wanted to use him as a bell cow running back. In college, it's all scheme dependent, but 90-plus PFF grade in all 3 seasons. You hit on that, 2,600-plus rushing yards. I mean, he's an absolute superstar. He broke out as a true freshman, so he checks every box you want. He's a top 10 prospect, in my opinion. He'll probably go in the top 12 for sure. Dallas Cowboys is the landing spot that I think he goes to in my comp for him. Christian McCaffrey. think they caught very similar size-wise. I think Jeanty has more
sexy
play power and more contact balance, but I think CMC is more explosive. But they play similar. They're both elite receiving backs, and they both have ridiculous production coming out of smaller schools. So,
yeah, I absolutely love that. I mean, what people don't pay attention to is they just assume because his bowling ball looking style, 5'9", 215, the way he stands back there straight up like Michael Myers, just stone cold killer, you know what I mean? And they're like, oh, that guy's just a pounder. But you look at it, man, in the 2025 running back class, in yards per route run, he's number 1 at 1.66. For a running back, that is absolutely ridiculous. He's tied with Skattebo, who we're going to love talking about him as well. But I mean, Ashton Judkins is the real deal. He's a 3-down back. He goes to the right landing spot. And man, we are going to see big time things from Ashton Judkins. He goes to the wrong landing spot, and we're still going to see RB1 production. That's why, for me, there's not a quarterback in this class worthy of bumping him down. And as at the wide receiver position, I love Ted McMillan, but honestly, I think Ashton Judkins in a tier of his own. I don't see any way. And I think this is why people think this class is down, right? Is because the running back is the number 1 overall pick, right? But we had that in 2023. Everyone said, oh, you know what? This class doesn't have the elite level quarterback. Like Bryce Young was good in college and CJ Stroud was good and Anthony Richardson's got a ton of upside, but it's Bijan. And look at what that class produced. That class produced elite level running backs. And then the wide receivers started to fall. And you were getting guys, you were getting Jackson Smith and Jigba at 107 in some leagues, Jordan Addison at 108. And you were getting really nice level wide receivers. You were getting Kincaid at 110. This year's got tight ends. So don't drink the Kool-Aid that the 2025 class is bad. I have one where I have 9 first, and everybody's like, well, you're going to suck for years. And I'm like, guys, when you have that draft capital, you don't trade it now. It's only going to go up, and Ashton Judkins' value is going to go up. I think you have an interesting phenomenon with that 101, right? Because if a lot of teams earned that 101 through a rebuild, Snoog, and the running back position is not the way to build around your rebuild, that's not the first pick if you don't have the quarterback. So if you're deep in a rebuild, I've been suggesting to a lot of people right now, Jeanty has a crazy amount of value that I would take a Anthony Richardson in my 101 and buy a Joe Burrow and like a later first, a 110, a 111, a 112, because this running back class is so deep. In a lot of drafts, you're going to get Singleton, Skattebo, Hampton in the late first, and you're going to get another stud running back. So I think Jeanty is that final piece. Every year we've said this, right? In 2022, I was building wide receiver rooms because I knew when I drafted Bijan and Gibbs, I was going to win leagues. We told you in 2024, you're going to draft Neighbors. You're going to draft Ladd. You're going to draft Brian Thomas Jr. And then you fill in the cracks with these running backs, and you're going to dominate. And I think a lot of you guys listen to that, and that's really what we're trying to hammer home today.
Yep.
That next tier, and this is where we get, guys that, for me, that next tier, there's 4 guys. I know you have 3, but all 4 talents here, I think, have top 12 dynasty running back upside. I mean, I think the new landscape is going to be wild. Like, there's about 8 guys I like in dynasty as running backs, and then there's going to be a lot of rookies fill in here. But the first guy, no doubt about it, you and I both think that he could honestly be in that tier 1 smash tier, has top 5 to 8 dynasty running back upside, and that's Kaleb Johnson. I mean,
I think the next 2 guys could be in that tier, honestly, if we really talk about it. But Kaleb Johnson is special, man. Like what he did in the Big Ten, the best conference in college football this year, absolutely steamrolls the SEC. So the best conference in college football, Kaleb Johnson comes in, true freshman breakout, by the way. So this shouldn't be any surprise that he did this year. But 21 years old, 6 foot, 225 pounds, kind of that. My player forms kind of that Melvin Gordon, bigger Aaron Jones style, because he kind of has that like blocky running style where he just absolutely attacks angles and has like a perfect flow to his running style. We saw a lot of Melvin Gordon and like Aaron Jones with how they just kind of glide through the field like silk. But I mean, he had 22 receptions. You kind of want to look at that 20 plus reception mark. That's usually like that threshold that I like to look for running backs, that if they're capable of catching the ball in the backfield, which he is. He had a couple good crosser routes and stuff like that I saw on tape that show that he's definitely a capable like 40 to 50 reception guy. 1,500 plus rushing yards, which was very elite. He also had 1,000+ rushing yards after contact. So he was the second best running back in this class behind Jeanty after contact, 4.42 yards after contact per attempt. These are elite numbers, man. I mean, he hit 66 missed tackles forced. Don't let Jeanty's 150 distract you from 66 not being good. 66 is very good. It's stacked up at one of the tops in this class, and he had 23 total touchdowns. What I see on tape with this guy, workhorse style running back, excels through contact well, big profile framed running back like that Melvin Gordon type, like I said, good long speed, good short area burst, great vision, has a great feel for the game and how he runs the football. I just see so much Aaron Jones, Melvin Gordon on tape. I don't know if you see the same thing, Dad, but right now he's my RB2.
Absolutely.
I think he's a fringe round 1 grade, early day 2 guy. He just glides through the wind. He attacks angles like nobody I've ever seen, especially in this class. It's like he just weaves around defenders. It's honestly so interesting to watch. But I mean, that true freshman breakout, early declared, checks every box you're looking for. I mean, he's damn near an elite running back prospect, and I'm excited for this guy.
And this year, what's exciting to me is, last year we're like, oh, this running back could go into this spot and be the 1A or 1A, 1B. This guy could go into here. Snoog, there are multiple running back situations where someone's going to go in and be a bell cow day 1. And to me, the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Browns, and the Raiders, teams are going to jump in there, and I think they're going to be able to just day 1. I mean, the Raiders are going to improve. They got Bowers. They're going to get a quarterback. And then you look at an early second-round pick with Kaleb Johnson, a guy that is just going to get crazy volume. Or you see a later first. Well, Jeanty's going to go before that. But, I mean, if Johnson or Judkins pop in there to a later first to the Chargers, man, that's the kind of stuff we're looking at. Here's a great question from Chief22. He's in the Patreon Discord. And they ask these kind of questions all the time in here. And I think this is next-level stuff. So with this many running backs in this class, are we trading from 103 to mid-late with all these running backs in that same tier? Like if you could take, for me right now, it's Jeanty 1, Tet 2, and Shedeur 3. And if you don't need a running back in this or quarterback in this class, I think the ideal thing here to do from 3, and once we're on the clock, again, you got to kind of play that out. But there's going to be a lot of opportunity, Snoog, to trade from 103 to 107 and get Treyveon Henderson, to trade from 103, and get yourself. People are going to get quarterback hungry. Ward's going to jump up into here. Milroe's going to jump up in here. Sanders. And then you're like, this running back class is what I want. If you play Dynasty right, if you play it the way that we teach it, you don't need a quarterback right now. And you don't want any of these 3 quarterbacks, particularly as your none of them. I don't want any of them as my QB1. I'd be okay with some of them as my QB2. I'd rather them be my 3rd quarterback on the bench for stash. So I love this question because I'm really trying to consider moving back from 103 to 105, 106, because there are 4 running backs in this tier, Snoog. You got to figure that they're going to go somewhere between, especially with Burden in there and Hunter, 107 to 110 is going to be running back alley. You're going to smash studs at 107 to 110.
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely agree. And if we just jump into this next guy here, Quinshon Judkins, he's my personal favorite in this class just because of the value and where I'm seeing other Dynasty sites and kind of YouTube channels rank him. Like they're almost like undervaluing him to the point where it's like, okay, I'm just going to draft a ton of Quinshon Judkins if this is how people are going to treat him, because he is Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon all over tape. He is one of those.
Before the transfer, you and I both had him as the RB1 overall.
Yeah.
And I think that's people have lost sight of that.
Yeah, he has the best short area burst in this class. He doesn't have the long speed like some of the other guys, but he has the best like short area burst, explosiveness, like run through your face, tenacious downhill runner that I've seen so far in this class. So I see Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon, just that violent, pure runner between the tackles. Played in the SEC, elite true freshman breakout, 1,500+ yards, best career true freshman season ever. Had another 1,200 yards following that. After that, workhorse running back in the SEC at a young age on a very talented Ole Miss team. So he beat out Zach Evans his true freshman season, put up 1,500+ yards. He had 78 missed tackles forced in a single season, which was better than Kaleb Johnson's best season. 17 total touchdowns, best. Hit 22 receptions. Another guy very capable of catching the football. Saw it a lot more at Ohio State. Cut on some more dynamic routes, not just checkdowns and swing routes. But just seeing him play in two completely different run schemes at Ohio State and Ole Miss, kind of more that between the tackles, violent runner at Ole Miss, and then more in that still between the tackles runner at Ohio State, but a lot on the outside sweeps, the outside zones, the tosses, the read options, the RPOs, stuff like that. We saw a lot of him playing in that style. So he has that very versatile running style and career arc in the SEC and Big Ten. He's on his way to win a national title right now. I think he did this as a business decision for his NFL draft. 21 years old, early declare. He's an early day 2 talent for me. Checks every box. Love this player. Love the talent. Love the film. I think he could be a top 10, top 8 dynasty running back from the get as soon as he gets drafted. I think he's going to go in that second round range. But I think the workload lightened this year was good for his draft stock. I think like you want to see that. He was very efficient. Him and Treyveon Henderson, I mean, I don't think he really fit the Ohio State scheme to his best strength, but I think it was just good for his draft stock, just playing at a high level, going to make it to the Natty, more eyes, more scouts watching him, just better for him. So I'm just excited for him in this kind of route that he's going to take. But Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, man, run through your face, can make you miss, bell cow style running back. This guy's elite, man.
Well, and the NFL's valuing it a lot more as those guys that are versatile, dynamic running backs. Those guys like a Joe Mixon, a guy that can, he can do the little things, but he can take it to the house. And I think Judkins is going to be one of those guys. If we see his pass, I think his pass production or his pass protection and his receiving skills are something that he didn't showcase, but he has the ability. I think he improves a little bit on that, and we're going to see someone that's could be a bell cow with top end speed right off the bat. And I'm looking at most major websites, Snoog, and they have him as RB7, and I think
crazy.
To me, that's like that's wild because this is
people
someone
forget it's recency bias, right? People just forget. And then people say, oh, well, he was good as freshman, sophomore year. Why did he get worse this year? It's like he's playing with the RB 4 or 5 in this class right beside him. And they both do completely different things. So it's like, they're just doing this for both of their NFL draft stock and lightening that workload. Like, look at Bama. All those years they had all those good running backs. Georgia, like it's just a draft stock thing. It happens. They're both elite. Let's jump into Treyveon Henderson, Dad. Let's hear you talk about. We could do him and Omarion Hampton back to back because it's very close for us. But kind of jump into both of those guys and kind of where you see them going NFL draft and how that looks and some of their stats.
First, before we do that, I mean, Judkins. I'm seeing a lot of people. You talked about Bama. I see a lot of people comping him to Brian Robinson Jr. and I just don't see it. Like you and I are talking Joe Mixon and Josh Jacobs and football. I'm seeing that, and I'm seeing Charbonnet, and it's like, they're okay running backs. They're nice. Those guys to me are C tier running backs in the NFL. This is a guy that has A tier type upside. So I mean, I'm all in when it comes to that. And I'm all in with Treyveon Henderson. Treyveon Henderson clearly would have been the RB1 in 2024. Not even a question. Runs a 4.39 at his size where he's 5'10", 208. So, he checks those boxes as well. Both of these guys from Ohio State. It's crazy to think that you got 2 guys in this A tier that have top 12 dynasty upside. It reminds me a lot of back in the day when you had Kamara and Derrick Henry in those Bama backfields, and you had those elite level guys, and they showed their versatility. And you know what's happened because of that? Because they didn't take that crazy wear and tear that Omarion Hampton had, or a guy in college that had 250 plus touches. Is they have longevity. You see those guys are still in the NFL. Kamara is still good. Derrick Henry is still good, and I think this is going to ultimately help both of these running backs. I'm very comfortable paying a mid-first for either of them. Henderson has that acceleration and long speed where I think he's also a guy that's going to create some big-time gains in the NFL. He's had some durability concerns in the past, but I think overall this year was great for him at Ohio State to get Judkins in there, to keep him a little bit fresher, to show some of that explosiveness. And when he stays healthy, this is someone that's an all-around back as well. It's crazy to have 2 guys where you're like, all right, both of these guys have top 12 upside, but they do. Yeah,
especially with Henderson. Him and Judkins are so different in so many good ways. Like Treyveon Henderson had like 117 elusiveness rating, which was very elite, very guy that has a lot of wiggle. He's shifty, can get on the perimeter and absolutely dominate you. He's going to be a great 1-2 punch type back in the NFL. Kenneth Walker, Tajay Spears blend is what I see. He's got the size and the play strength. It's Kenneth Walker, so he's beefier back, but he has that wiggle and that short area quickness like Tyjae Spears a little bit. Not as quick as Tyjae Spears, but he has that play style. 4.31 yards after contact per attempt was very good. Having a season above 4 is good. Being in that like 4.5 plus is very elite. And just going back to his true freshman season, when he was healthy, when he had the backfield by himself, 1,200 plus rushing yards and 19 touchdowns. So elite player, 27 receptions, hit 20 plus many times. I mean, when he's healthy, he's one of the best backs on the field. Him and this next guy that we'll talk about are kind of in the same area for us. But yeah, Treyveon Henderson has a very high floor, pass catching upside type guy. So I think he's going to be a good guy to talk about as well. And that'll go day 2. He's another one of those day 2 guys.
And we haven't seen that in the last couple of years, right? Day 2's just been a disappearing act with the running backs, especially last year. It was like we were waiting and waiting and waiting. And this year, and a lot of people have moved this guy up to their RB2 overall. I'm a little bit higher on him than you are. I have him, Omarion Hampton, just his downhill running style, his ability to thrive on contact balance and power, someone that has physical traits that led to college production that I think translates fantastically. I mean, I think he's going to be a top-notch running back. I think he has top 12, top 15 to top 12 upside. And again, I think out of these guys, though, I think his situation is going to have to be better than the other guys.
Exactly.
I think the other guys thrive. But if you told me he got drafted by the Chargers and, Henderson and Judkins go to a more of a situation where they're the 1B, I think right now, I mean, this is someone that I think would absolutely thrive in the right situation.
Yeah, I mean, he was a sophomore breakout. I mean, this is another guy, 21 years old, 6 foot, 220 pounds. I see a lot of James Conner, Zach Charbonnet plus on tape with this guy, like a faster version of these two guys, more explosive. He's such a blocky runner to me. It's like it's a home run, crease or nothing. Like it's like he's had a couple plays on tape where I was like, okay, like he can drop the shoulder, run through people. He's got that contact balance. 4.35 yards after contact per attempt was his best season. I mean, he hit 1,600 plus yards, 90 plus PFF rush grade. He hit that. Had 38 receptions. The receptions, I think, are a little fake, though. He's not a dynamic receiver. I think he's like a swing route guy, 30 to 40 reception type guy, maybe 50. Like he's like a Charbonnet. Everyone thought he was this elite receiving back. He's not. He catches swing routes. He can't do anything else. So that's what I see with Omarion Hampton. But I think he's a track athlete. I think he's going to be a guy that falls into the right situation, and he's like a Nick Chubb light or like a James Conner or like a Zach Charbonnet plus. Some of the comps that came through mind with me if he gets day 2 draft capital, but I have a day 2 grade on him. 67 missed tackles forced, which was a good number as well. You're above that like 50 to 60 plus range. You can make guys miss. He is a bull in the china shop when he wants to be. Like I see him drop that shoulder, run through people. It is the ACC. It's probably the worst conference or one of in college football, but even when playing good teams, like he was always just wrecking havoc out there. And especially with Drake May, he was one of those guys that like back-to-back 1,500 plus yard seasons. Like you can't take that away from someone. That's very good. So I still have him. He's my RB5 right now. He could literally be like anywhere between RB5 to RB2. If he goes to the Chargers, he's probably going to be RB1 or RB2 or RB3 for me. Like it's that simple. I just think his situation matters a little bit more. He's going to need a little bit more touchdowns to be fantasy elite, but I think that path is there for him as well.
I think you're going to see his career arc. Like you said, Nick Chubb. I almost see like a Josh Jacobs light a little bit as well, where you're looking at a guy early on in his career, first and second down work, but he starts to develop that game. I mean, we know Jacobs had that coming out, but it hasn't been until this year where he's gotten the receptions. And I think Omarion Hampton is a guy that's, he's going to be a mid. I think he goes somewhere between 106 and 109 in your rookie drafts. That's why I'm saying 107 to 110. Running back row, like you're going to get, I wouldn't be surprised to see 6 running backs go in the first round, and I think he's definitely going to be one of them. And he fills out the rest of our tier for that, A tier. The next tier is real nice as well, right? So like so far, let's get this out of the way. All 5 of these guys are ranked higher than anybody in 2024. We did the 2024-25 comparison. I think we start to get into the B tier. And we still have guys that are ranked better than the 24 running back class. And we knew that. Sorry, still getting over a cold, guys. It's been killing me. We're doing the show in the snow over here in the Northeast. Speaking of the Northeast, Penn State Nick Singleton, if he comes out, he's borderline A tier. I have him in that B tier, and I know you like him as well. And I think you're looking at a guy here, again, I think a little bit more system dependent, but a clear starter. If he comes out in 2025, I really hope both the Penn State guys come out in 2025. I'm a Penn State fan, but I just want to see him in the NFL because both of these guys, I mean, all three, when you talk about Warren and you talk about Aller and you talk about Singleton, you got three guys here that could really make an immediate impact in the NFL.
Yep. Yeah, Nick Singleton, I mean, true freshman breakout. I was waiting to say this stat till we got to Nick Singleton, but 3 running backs in college football at 1,000 yards as a true freshman. Nick Singleton, Treyveon Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. All Big Ten players right now, so that's cool to see. But I think Nick Singleton has as much upside as any of the guys that we just talked about, just a little bit lower of a floor, just because I think he's really reliant on home runs. He doesn't take like the easy stuff, right? It's like if there's a crease, he's gone. You're not catching him. He's also really good in space as a receiver. I don't think he has like crazy elusiveness, which kind of holds him back. He's kind of more of like a north-south runner. Chuba Hubbard, Travis Etienne Light is what I saw. Like Travis Etienne Light is a prospect. But I see so much of them, like just those home run hitters, elite athletes, like early day 2, like mid day 2 type talent, early declare if he goes this year, 21 years old. He's 6 foot, 220 plus pounds. He has that true freshman breakout, 4.58 yards after contact per attempt, 39 receptions. Like he can catch the ball very well. So I think it's just one of those things, like he's playing alongside another guy that's probably like a round 4 draft pick in Katron Allen. So it's hard to take over and dominate a backfield when you're at a big power 4 school like that, when there's another NFL talent playing right there alongside you the whole way. But Nick Singleton he was great in pass block as well. So he's just a guy that's going to find himself getting on the field from day one, right? I don't know if he goes, he could be in that like Rachaad White role alongside another NFL running back where he's just that elite receiving back. He's much better than Rachaad White. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's a better runner. So he'd have a lot more fantasy value. But like, I think that's like a floor for him. Like that RB20s range, catching 50, 60, 70 passes and being like a 1-2 change of pace guy with like a Brian Robinson or like a big bowling ball type, like bruiser at the goal line. But he could be that bruiser. So I'm excited for Singleton. He's like fringe A tier for me. He's probably right there with like, if the draft capital follows with those guys that we just talked about. But if he goes back to school, he's probably going to be RB2 in that 2026 class for me. So I'm excited for him. I hope he honestly just goes back to school. So the 26 class isn't so bad, but he's a fun player, elite home run hitter. So let's jump into these next guys. Dylan Sampson, talk about him.
Hold on. No, I got another guy ahead of them, but we just can't. He's risen up board so much.
I have Scatty over him now too. I'm fully on board with Skattebo.
I know. You'd be remiss if you don't talk about Cam Skattebo. I mean, you're watching the tape, and the dude just goes ham in the bowl game. He goes absolutely ballistic, and you're like, who is this? What do we got here? And a lot of people are just seeing him for the first time. This didn't just happen. 1,700 rushing yards with 21 rushing touchdowns. Led all of college football, tied with Ashton Jeanty at 1.66 yards per route run. You saw that deep ball he caught where, the shoulder pad comes off and just the most him moment possible in college football, just looking over with that cold stare. But he had 45 receptions, 605 receiving yards, and 4 receiving touchdowns. So the only thing holding this guy back is just long speed. This is someone where we're seeing some comps here. And, the elite level comp would be someone in that Marshawn Lynch area where he's just beast mode. And I think that's just because he sees it where he's going to run through a mother trucker's face. You know what I mean? He's just going to hit you again and again and again. And he's going to be someone that's going to be punishing. We're a PG-13 type show. I'm not going to drop that. But, he's someone that like you watch him and he's just a bulldozer. He throws for a touchdown. He can receive. He's just a dog. He's fun to watch. But Snoog, is it going to translate out to the pro level? I mean, I think he's going to run somewhere between a 4.58 and a 4.6. You and I talked about it before. That's more of like we're looking at Audric Estime type speed, which is going to drop him down draft boards. But if he runs a 4.52, I think there's a real chance he could go in the second round. And if he goes to the right spot, like you were saying, he's a guy that has huge touchdown upside.
Round 3 grade for him. For me, that's what I settled on the other night when I was watching his film, round 3. And that's projecting him to run like a 4.6. Kyron ran like a 4.7. Audric Esme ran like a 4.6 something. They both went in round 5. Bucky Irving ran like a 4.59, and he was like 190 pounds. I don't think I think those 3 guys right there, just having any sort of success in the NFL is all we need to know, just to be like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, this guy is wrecking havoc on the football field. He's a bull in a china shop, run through your face. If you just look at the numbers, I mean, look at all his games against ranked teams this year. Texas, 30 carries, 143 yards, 3 touchdowns, threw a touchdown, 8 receptions, 99 yards. That's one of the best defenses in college football. Then you go against Iowa State in the championship game, 16 for 170, 2 touchdowns, 2 receptions, 38 yards, and a touchdown. You go to BYU, 28 carries, 147 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 receptions. You go to Kansas State, 25 carries, 73 yards, 4 receptions, 44 yards, no touchdown. Then you go to Utah, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 receptions. Like, this guy was Arizona State's offense. The reason why Arizona State made the college football playoffs was because of Cam Skattebo. This dude is a dog. He's a workhorse guy. I think he is a David Montgomery light, LeGarrette Blount, Jamal Williams plus, like just that goal line bruiser that's going to wreck havoc on the football field. He screams Dan Campbell. I know it makes no sense, but that would be funny. I think Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers is going to be a phenomenal pick in that day 2 range, maybe round 3. I think that's where he's going to end up. I'm sitting on that. That's where I have best scheme fit for him. 37 receptions, best, can catch the ball well, 1,500 plus yards in the regular season. You count in college football playoffs, hit 1,700. I mean, he had like 25 total touchdowns, 24.1 PFF rush grade, forced over 100 missed tackles in the college football season, and averaged like 4+ yards per contact effort attempt. The analytics are great. Production's elite. Sophomore breakout. Fringe day 2 talent for me. I mean, he's 23 years old, but 5'11", like 220. He's just an absolute bull. And he's one of those guys that you love to watch, right? Like, he brings energy to the field. He's an energizer. I think scouts are going to love him. I think he's going to be a value in the NFL draft, though. Like, if he slips to round 4, teams are going to trade up for him.
I think the next guy, and you and I we think a lot alike on this, is Dylan Sampson, when it's all said and done, is going to pass Cam Skattebo, because what you're going to see at the combine is you're going to see a guy who's only 20 years old, who's going to be, he's one of those more electric, potentially running a 4.35 right now is what I'm saying as a projection for him. This is someone size wise, you're looking at more of, we're seeing him at 5'11", 190 right now. And what I can't stand, right, is we still hear the stupid narrative of, oh, well, this guy, his size limits his potential as a bell cow. I think we heard about Jahmyr Gibbs. I think we heard about Devon Achane. I think we heard about Bucky Irving. Those guys were undersized, right? So a lot of people let them fall down draft. This Sampson has elite burst, lateral quickness. He's a potential game breaker at the next level. This is someone that just oozes upside. This is someone that you get him. I'm not saying that we want him in Miami, but if you get a Mike McDaniels type guru, you get a guy that is going to use him properly. I could see him play a Devon Achane type role in the NFL. Like, he's that talented, and that you're getting him at probably 110 right now. Like, that's wild. You're going to get somebody like that. Now there is some downside to his game, but the upside is tremendous with his speed and with his lateral quickness.
Yeah, he's a crease hitter. He has very good contact balance. So, I mean, 4.57 yards at the contact per attempt best. Yeah. He has that sophomore breakout, 20 years old. I think he's an early declare. I think he already declared for the draft. I'm not sure, but I mean, he hit 20+ receptions in a season. I know that's scheme dependent, but he did hit 90+ PFF rush grade. You love to see that. 70 missed tackles forced in a season. 1,500+ yards in the SEC at 20 years old is elite. I don't care who you are, where you are. He dominated Georgia, dominated Alabama, 22 total touchdowns this year. He didn't even play in that last game against Ohio State. I think he got hurt on like the first drive. So I just don't even look at that. Like, that's just a wash for me. But I mean, he had that sophomore breakout. Even when Jalen Wright was there, he had a very good sophomore season. My comp for him is Tony Pollard. And I see a little bit of Raheem Mostert too, but Tony Pollard is like that dynamic runner, kind of explosive guy before the injury, Tony Pollard. But like, I think that's like a good range of outcomes for him as a Tony Pollard type career. Not everybody's going to be Alvin Kamara. Not everybody's going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. And that's what everybody listening needs to understand. Everyone out there is just going to say all these players are going to be this good, that good. No, I like to give realistic roles and kind of like ceiling to floor outcomes. So I gave Tony Pollard, Jerome Ford, both just explosive running backs, starting caliber talent. He could be those guys plus because he is 20 years old in the SEC, great production, but home run hitter, great contact balance. I see a little bit of Alvin Kamara contact balance when Kamara was at Tennessee. I had to go back and watch Alvin Kamara Tennessee tape just to see it. And I was like, wow, this is like crazy because he bounces off everybody. It's like you can't bring the guy down at times. So Tony Pollard, Jerome Ford plus. I love those comps. He's like that in that RB7 to RB9 range for us. I think there's three guys you could argue for RB7. We'll talk about Ollie Gordon next, but just three guys I think capable NFL starters, and I'm excited for this class because they're going to be in that like round 2 to round 4 range of the NFL draft, I think.
Ollie Gordon is one. I'm looking around on other websites and I'm seeing him RB12, RB15. I saw one site had him as RB18 of the class. And I think people forget how damn good he was. You know, he on the national scene, 2023 Doak Walker Award, Oklahoma, he produced 1,732 rushing yards, 2,062 from scrimmage, you know, and he just was absolutely awesome. 7th in the Heisman Trophy. And then even if you just look at that sophomore year, I mean, some of the stuff is just absolutely wild. He posted 9 100-yard games, 282-yard game against West Virginia, 1,096 second half rushing yard just in the second half of games. I think that's huge because you see that he does not wear down. He became the first Cowboy since 1989 to have 100 receiving and 100 rushing in the same game. And I think people just forgot about him. I mean, in 2023, when that season was over, you were like, this is the RB1 in Dynasty. This is the guy that you want to have. And what happened the last couple of years that people have soured this much, Snoog, is you and I have him as RB 7, 8. But I mean, like I said, major websites have him as 12, 15, and 18. So tell me why. I mean, he's 6'11", 211, 6'11", 211 pounds, likely going to run somewhere between 4.43 and 4.50. I think he's probably somewhere in that middle, like 4.48. So, I mean, he has nice soft hands in the passing game, 39 receptions in that 2023 season. So why are people so low on him right now?
I think it's just because of how horrible Oklahoma State was that they just stacked the boxes, shut down Ollie Gordon, and then it was, okay, now we got to throw the ball. We got to play from behind. If you just look at his 2024 season versus 2023 season, he had like 98 less carries. Like the touches, if you just double his carries, he was up in that 1,600 plus range again. So he was way less efficient as a runner, though, 4.6 yards per carry. Still had 13 touchdowns, 880 rushing yards. That's not bad. Like, that's not like a terrible – he had 29 receptions still again. Like, he wasn't horrible. His season wasn't horrible. It was just underwhelming for what we thought he was and what we thought he could be. But based on where everybody's valuing him, he's another guy that I think is landing spot dependent a little bit. But I think you're going to absolutely love the comp I have.
You're going to get him. You're going to get him an early second. Who's the comp?
Jordan Howard in the Chicago Bears is his ceiling comp for me. That was a guy who was 1,200 yards,
but he was
touchdowns.
RB1 like 3 times.
Yeah, that's the comp I see. Like that big back that just beats you up, has elusiveness. Kind of like, I think another scheme fit that I have written down here is Ravens to replace Derrick Henry, Los Angeles Chargers, Dallas Cowboys to be a workhorse guy. I have some good landing spots here for him because I think players, like if the Cowboys don't take a Jeanty, right, and they wait, they build out the first and second round to build out the team, right? And it comes to third round, fourth round, they're like, all right, let's get a guy that can be a good back to play with Rico Dowdle, right? So we still want to use Dowdle a little bit as that dynamic guy. All right, let's get Gordon, a guy that could be 10 touchdown guy, 1,000 yards, first and second down grinder, can also catch a little bit. I just think he's going to be that type of running back in the NFL. I just need to see that the NFL still believes in him. As soon as they do, I could bump him up 4 spots. Like that. It's that simple. I just don't know. I don't know anything. I just know I love this sophomore tape. He's a workhorse guy. I think his junior tape was fine. I went and saw him play in person at TCU. And one thing I noticed was 8 guys in the box at all times. and they were just they were getting through, hitting him in the backfield. Like it was just tough for him in that game. So I was like, okay, now I understand why Ollie Gordon has struggled. Another comp I have is Latavius Murray. I mean, this is a guy that was around forever, 1,000 yards, a couple of seasons, touchdown scorer. So I think those are some pretty good ceiling to floor outcomes for him. Is Jordan Howard, Latavius Murray. But yeah, I mean, you can't say someone that won the Doak Walker Award is bad. It's just that simple. So
Chan Hughes said, I knew this class was loaded, but holy crap, like this is where we're at. And we've now listed 9 guys who have starter potential. I got 2 more guys that have committee plus size. And the one I love is DJ Giddens. DJ Giddens has vision, quick feet, receiving skills.
My favorites ready.
1,300 rushing yards, 21 receptions, 8 total touchdowns at Kansas State. And I think this is another guy that's a top 10 back that in the right system, Snoog, we could see this guy absolutely thrive as well. And Devin Neal. So you got 2 more guys here that go in committee plus who have starter upside. I feel like they're a 1B for somebody else. But with the aging, we're going to do a running back landscape show, but let's be honest. 70% of our running back ones right now are aging guys. It's Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry. We're looking at these running backs where it's going to be a changing of the guard, maybe not in 2025, but 2026. And I can see Giddens or Neal be a 1B in 2025 and get a starting role by 2026.
Yeah. You're going to love my comps for both of these. I'll start with the comps. DJ Giddens, Tony Pollard, Rashad White. That thinner frame, like 6'1" style running back that's just dynamic in space, kind of that 1-2 change of pace guy, elite receiving upside type player. And then for Devin Neal, Tyjae Spears, James Cook. Another one, great receiver, dynamic, can make you miss. Tyjae Spears, he has that wiggle. Like Devin Neal has that crazy wiggle, that elusiveness in space. Both space guys, but can both run the football damn well. So I think they're both guys that are fringe day 2 talents, early day 3 guys that could get lost in the mix a little bit with how stacked this class is. But a team could also love these guys so much that they go in that round 3 area or maybe fall into that late round 2. I think they're more like round 3 guys though. But both were great. Both sophomore breakouts. I mean, Devin Neal was a true freshman breakout. Both 21 years old. Both good pass catchers. Both Devin Neal averaged like 3.75 yards after contact per attempt, which is good. Had 1,280 rushing yards, 17 total touchdowns, and then Giddens 1,300 plus rushing yards. Best season, 70 missed tackles forced in a single season is his best, and he hit 4+ yards after contact per attempt. So both of these guys are great. They both would have been in my top 3 to 4 in last year's class, just to show you how good this class is. But I mean, just those 11 guys that we just highlighted, all players that could be NFL relevant in my opinion, and you can even go.
Dude, there's 4 more in the committee backs who I see these guys, and we have them listed right now as Jordan James, Woody Marks, Raheem Sanders, RJ Harvey. At different points, Jordan James and Raheem Sanders have been ranked very high. When you look at what we've talked about before with yards per route run, Woody Marks 1.43, RJ Harvey 1.41, Raheem Sanders 1.20, all in the top 8 in college football last year. And I think all of these guys, honestly, I like better than anybody outside the top 4 to 5 running backs of 2024. And these guys are our RB 12 through 15. That's insane. I think all of these guys, and we're going to get to more in the offseason, all these guys have some tremendous upside. James is one that I really like. I think he's a perfect complementary back coming out of Oregon. Sanders, I really liked more in the last 2 years than I do. He has kind of had a down year.
Of him. He runs like he's got cement blocks tied to his feet. So I was always just like, I can't with Sanders, but he's in this tier with me. A guy that certainly doesn't run that is some of our insurance running backs. Taj Brooks. I love him. Brashad Smith, Jay Knott, Kyle Monaghay. Like there's just, that's 19 deep, Snoog, of guys that we're excited about. Yeah. Last year at this time, how many running backs were we excited about? 4? Bucky Irving, Blake Corum. It was like Jonathan Books, Trey Benson, Blake Corum, Bucky Irving. That was it.
There was like 4 guys, and then nothing until the combine, and then we were like, oh, okay, Jalen Wright could be a dog because he's so fast, and let's move Trey Benson up. You guys got to remember, this is a cyclical time. If you're just getting into Dynasty, we're in January. We're getting out ahead of the curve. but you're going to be able to get value points where they're going to go up after the combine. So guys that run those 4.3s, early 4.4s, their value is going to go up. We don't double count it at Smash Accept. They're going to go up. Guys are going to go up after the NFL draft. That's why we say don't trade your first now. Don't trade your early second now. Mid to late second, fine. If you want to, I saw a guy trade what was likely going to be the 212 next year for James Conner. If you can make those moves, go ahead. But don't tinker. Don't try to get super excited. Build the process out. Know that you're going to get stud running backs. Last year, you were getting, Bucky Irving, Braylon Allen at the end of the late second. This year, you're going to get arguably better running backs. I mean, I think you're going to see Giddens and Neal and Gordon and Sampson fall to the late second. So if you needed running backs, we got you covered. It is Smash Accept running back week. We're excited. Make sure you guys follow us on YouTube. Make sure you guys check us out, patreon.com/Smash Accept. Again, Snoog, tell everybody what they get with that, because everyone's like, what is that? What is Patreon? How do I, what am I actually benefiting from this?
Yeah, so you get access to an entire Discord that we built out. It has all of our rankings, all of our rookie stuff, all of our startup values, buy lows, sell highs, all that good stuff that you're looking for your dynasty stuff to help you out with trades, roster construction, etc. We also have chats we're running mocks 24/7 all week long.
Dude,
There's rookie
that's gonna
mocks,
be huge.
startup mocks, values, just so you can get ahead, see kind of where rookies are going, what it's looking like, what ADPs look like, and you can start preparing for your rookie drafts. But just want to highlight to finish this off, we're assuming Quinshon Allen, Damian Martinez, and Trevor Etienne go back to school.
Oh, I love Martinez.
That's kind of the buzz around on the street. But if those guys decide to declare, we're definitely going to do another one of these shows. So they would definitely be in it, and they would probably be in that top 10 to 12 range. So I'm excited. It's going to be an elite class. So stay tuned, buckle up, and get ready. Make sure you jump in that Discord so you can prepare for this rookie draft and start preparing for your dynasty season.
Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and enjoy the process. Boom, we're back for 20.